The sun has not yet risen over the Nile, but you are already awake. The air is still cool. The ground is packed hard beneath your feet. In a few hours, the heat will shimmer on the river. The mud will crack and the stone will burn your skin. But for now, there is quiet. You are not a pharaoh. You are not a priest. You are not a builder of pyramids. You are just someone living, working, breathing in a world that to us seems wrapped in gold and mystery. But was it? What did life really feel like for someone beneath the hieroglyphs, beneath the towering statues, beneath the legends? Welcome to ancient Egypt, not the one of movies and myths, but the real one, the one of barley sweat, ink, and incense. Step beyond the myths and into the life behind the stone. You wake up every morning before the sun rises, and every evening you watch sink into the west. In between, you do what must be done. You are an ancient Egyptian, and life is not easy. The Nile gives, and the Nile takes away. The Pharaoh demands much. The priests ask for more. The seasons shift, and you must shift with them. But through it all, there is order. The river's rhythm flows in your blood. Can you feel its pulse? The annual flood, the silt that enriches the soil, the endless sky above, and the endless fields around. Here life is hard, but it is also good. There is work to be done. There are roles to fulfill. There are gods to honor. There are people to love. There are stories to tell. When you were born, the midwife laid you on a mat of reeds and sang an old song of protection. When you were 12, you began to help your mother and father in the fields. When you were 18, you chose your role. You could work the fields like your father, or you could join the artisans or become a scribe or priest. For many, life ends before it truly begins. You are healthy, strong, and quick to learn. Your mind is keen, your spirit is kind, your heart is brave. You are an adult now. You have duties and obligations. You are part of something bigger than yourself. The temple calls to you, but you choose the fields. The Nile demands respect. The rains are capricious. The crops must be tended. There is no other choice. Each season has its task. The fields must be sown. The harvest must be gathered. The animals must be cared for. There are festivals to celebrate. The sheaf festival, the beautiful women dance and sing of the Nile's bounty. The wine festival where the vats run over and everyone laughs. The feast of the valley when the whole community feasts on new grain and fruit. But there are other times too. Times of hunger, times of thirst, times of hardship and despair. And through it all, you endure. Every day you look to the sky, read the signs, pray for rain, for health, for guidance. You live near the river, but sometimes the Nile does not give. The water level drops. The fields wither. The cattle fall. Still, you keep your faith. You honor the gods. You make offerings, small and great. To the king, you pay your taxes, grain, and labor. Sometimes your son goes with you to help. You teach him the rhythm of the fields, the language of the birds, the needs of the soil. You dream that he becomes a great leader, a wise judge, a skilled warrior. In the evening, after the work is done, you gather with your family. You eat, you drink, you talk. You remember a time when the river flooded and the fields were washed clean, a time when a great storm shattered the huts, a time when your daughter was born and your son learned to walk. There are stories to tell, songs to sing, games to play. You take out your harp and sing of the Nile, the source of all life, the giver of all bounty. You sing of Ra, who guides the sun and chases the darkness. You sing of Osiris, who brings the flood and nourishes the soil. As the night deepens, the stars appear. You point out Orion the hunter and the bull, the dog and the river, the great one, Sirius, which heralds the new year and the rising of the Nile. When the sky is dark and the air is cool, you lie down on your mat beside your wife. You put your arm around her shoulder, stroke her hair, listen to the sounds of the village, the crickets, and the frogs, the distant sound of a cat calling, the whisper of the wind through the trees. In the darkness, you think of the Pharaoh, who rules over all the priests, who serve the gods, the scribes, who record the words of the king, the farmers who feed the people, the artisans who make the beautiful things, the soldiers who protect the borders, the doctors who heal the sick, the mothers who bear the children, the teachers who pass on the knowledge, the builders who raise the great monuments, the farmers who bring in the harvest. You think of all these people, and you wonder where you will be in the next life. You hope to be reborn in the fields of reeds, to live with Osiris in the underworld, to join your ancestors in the hall of the double fields. You close your eyes and drift off to sleep. The Nile flows on, the eternal river, the source of all life, the giver of all bounty. You are part of the Nile, and the Nile is part of you. When the Nile floods receded and the mud dried on the river banks, it revealed treasures like gold, silver, and lapis lazuli. But no prize was more valuable than a piece of pure white parchment, for this was the material of eternity. It was on these sheets that a select few scribes would inscribe tales so compelling that even gods would pause in their heavenly revelry to listen. These were the chroniclers of Egypt, men whose words flowed like the river Nile, carrying life to the kingdom of Ra. You are one such chronicler, a lowly scribe from a small village, yet you bear the weight of preserving history on your shoulders. For you are the man who writes the afterlife. You've toiled over countless funerary scrolls, each one a lifeline to the next world. With every stroke of your quill, you navigate the treacherous waters of myth and magic, ensuring that the deceased reach their final destination safely. After all, the wrong word here could condemn a soul to wander the underworld for eternity. But your latest assignment has you trembling. King Tutankhamun, the boy Pharaoh, has summoned you to the eternal city of the dead, Valley of the Kings. Here, amidst the towering tombs of Pharaoh's past, you're to record the burial rituals of the most powerful ruler in the known world. You enter the burial chamber, its vastness echoing the mysteries of the universe. Before you lies the sarcophagus, a monumental masterpiece adorned with hieroglyphs that speak of the king's divine lineage. As the priests chant, their voices resonate with the weight of ages, carrying prayers that are as old as time itself. The air grows thick with incense as the burial begins. You watch as the body of the great Pharaoh is placed inside the sarcophagus. Each movement is precise, a testament to the meticulous planning that has gone into this moment. With the body secured, the treasure begins to be placed inside the tomb. Gold goblets, fine linen, and even provisions for the afterlife are carefully arranged, ensuring that the pharaoh's journey into the next world is as comfortable as possible. Then comes the critical moment. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and hymns that will guide the pharaoh's soul through the underworld, is placed beside the sarcophagus. This ancient text holds the key to the pharaoh's fate. And as you stand there, you realize that your role is just as vital as theirs. For it is you who will inscribe the words that will determine whether the pharaoh finds peace or is lost forever. With the ceremony complete, the entrance to the tomb is sealed, leaving you in near darkness. The only light filtering in from a small opening at the top, just enough for you to see the final preparations being made. The outer chamber is filled with offerings to the gods, a final plea for safe passage. As the last priest leaves, you are left alone in the near darkness, the weight of your task pressing down on you. Your hands steady, you begin the ritual of transferring the Book of the Dead into the pharaoh's tomb. With each movement, you pray that your skill does not falter, that your quill does not skip, that your ink does not smudge. For if anything goes awry, the consequences could be dire. You think of the pharaoh, of his family, of the countless souls who have passed before him, and you draw strength from their silent trust. Finally, The last letter is inscribed. You step back to admire your work, the words glowing faintly in the dim light. They are not just letters on a page, but a lifeline to the afterlife. You have ensured the Pharaoh's passage, and with that, your duty is done. As you leave the tomb, the rising sun bathes the Valley of the Kings in a golden light. A new day dawns, and with it, the promise of new stories waiting to be written. But the memory of the Pharaoh's tomb, the weight of his trust, and the knowledge that you played a part in ensuring his eternal peace will stay with you always. For you are not just a scribe, you are the man who writes the afterlife. For centuries, the pyramids loomed as eternal symbols of mystery. Their geometry is flawless, their stones weigh tons. And for the longest time, one question echoed louder than all others. Who built them? Were they slaves? Foreign captives? Or a hidden class of engineers lost to time? Modern discoveries at Giza, hidden beneath layers of sand and silence, have begun to rewrite the answer, and it is far more human, far more relatable, and far more surprising than anyone once imagined. It begins with a cluster of low stone structures, not far from the Great Pyramid of Khufu. At first glance, they appeared to be little more than rubble. But careful excavation revealed something extraordinary. There were bakeries, there were dormitories. There were tools, animal bones, and pots still stained with beer and stew. And there were inscriptions, not of kings or gods, but of laborers. Nicknames, jokes, team names proudly scratched onto the walls of barracks. This was no slave camp. This was a construction village. The workers, it turns out, were well fed. Archaeologists found evidence of regular meals, cattle, sheep, bread, fish, and lots of beer. Their bones showed signs of physical strain, yes, but also medical care. Some had broken limbs that had healed cleanly. Some had been buried with ceremony, with pottery and charms beside them. These were people who were valued, not enslaved, hired, respected, perhaps even honored. Welcome to my channel. You are part of this. A builder, a stone hauler, a copper chisel sharpener. You work in teams with names like Friends of Khufu or the Drunkards of Menkaure, shouting chants and rhythm as you pull ropes and push sleds across sand, soaked in water to reduce friction. It was punishing labor, but you believe in it. Not just for money, not just for food, but because you were part of something immortal. You were helping to build a path to the afterlife for your Pharaoh, and maybe in some unseen way for yourself. You live in dormitories stacked side by side next to cooking pits and laundry stones. You laugh with your team, sing working songs, and carve graffiti on the stones when no one is watching. Some drawings show men lifting jars or dragging sleds. One shows a man upside down, grinning. Perhaps a joke, perhaps a protest, perhaps just a moment of life frozen in limestone. At night you lay on reed mats beneath the stars, the shadow of the pyramid dark against the sky. You listen to the stories of older builders who say the work would never end, and as soon as one monument finished, another would rise. You do not fear that. You find meaning in it. You are shaping eternity, and even today the fingerprints of your life remain, not just in the stones that still stand, but in the details, the broken tools, the worn sandals, the bite marks and unfinished bread. The myth of slave labor has crumbled. In its place is a story of human will, of communal pride, of thousands of ordinary people whose hands, voices, and sweat made the impossible real. The pyramids were not built by magic. They were not carved by giants. They were not forced into being by whips. They were raised by people like you, with backs bent, hearts steady, and eyes fixed on the sky. The Egyptians kept records. They wrote on papyrus. They carved into stone. They painted onto tombs. They left behind lists of supplies and equipment, of laborers and overseers, of everything needed to keep their great building projects going. But they didn't leave behind any records of how those projects started. No written accounts tell how they moved massive stones across the desert or lifted them up into towering forms. And so for centuries, the how remained a mystery. How could anyone have built these monuments? To answer that question, we built our own. Between 1994 and 2010, two groups of engineers and architects independently figured out how ancient Egyptians may have constructed the pyramids. And it all came down to a simple concept: ramps. Using computer modeling and physics, each group demonstrated that a series of earthen ramps could have been used to haul stone up and around the pyramid. Ramps that might look something like this. So far, only one ramp structure has ever been found near the pyramids. An oval-shaped earthen mound about 20 meters high and 70 meters wide. Discovered in 1998. While it doesn't prove anything, its shape does resemble the internal ramp structures predicted by modern models. But even if we know how the pyramids were built, the bigger question remains: who did the work? Who were the laborers behind such a monumental feat? The answer is hiding somewhere beneath the pyramids. We know that much. But to uncover it, we have to take a journey back in time, before the pyramids were even a twinkle in the Pharaoh's eye, to when this whole area looked nothing like the modern-day Giza. Imagine a hot summer's day. The year is 2580 BC. The Nile River is surging after the annual floods, which means now is the time to start new construction projects. After all, the increased water levels bring a fresh layer of nutrient-rich silt to the fields, ensuring a bountiful harvest in the fall. And that means plenty of food to sustain your workforce throughout the summer. That's right, your workforce. Because while pyramids are the obvious sign of the old kingdom of Egypt, they aren't the only ones. All along the Nile, riverfront communities are turning into bustling cities. New towns spring up near the riverbank, each hosting dozens of building projects from large to small. Dozens of pyramids dot the landscape, each one housing the body of a recently deceased pharaoh. And in every city, skilled artisans, farmers, and administrators are gathering together, preparing to make a pilgrimage into the desert. Here is where your story starts. You are leaving your home for the long trek to Giza. With you are your wife and children, extended family members, friends, neighbors, fellow farmers, your mayor, and the priests from your local temple. You have come because the Pharaoh has called for a building project unlike any other. He wants to build the biggest pyramid the world has ever seen. It'll be a tomb for him and his family and whoever else he deems worthy. And he needs thousands of people to make it happen. Each town sends their best, their most experienced builders, their most trusted administrators, and their strongest oxen. And each individual has a role to play when you arrive at the construction site. In the flat desert sands, the Pharaoh's vision is laid out before you. Limestone quarries have already provided hundreds of thousands of huge limestone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 7 tons. And somehow, someway, the plan is to stack them into a gigantic pyramid nearly 150 meters high. Of course, this isn't your job. You are here to help build roads, to level off the ground, and to set up the camps. Then you will return home, satisfied that you played your part in creating something grand. But then you see the scale of the task, and your heart sinks. The Pharaoh's vision isn't just grand, it's massive, overwhelming, impossible. And then you think, no, we can do this. We have enough manpower. We have enough food and water. We have the Pharaoh's blessing. We can do this. And so you do. You divide into teams, each taking responsibility for a different part of the project. You clear away the sand and rocks, flatten the earth, and set up your camp nearby. Then you wait for the supplies of food and beer to arrive. Then you start hauling stones. Day by day, you inch forward. Sometimes the heat is unbearable. Sometimes the sun beats down relentlessly. Sometimes you struggle to lift enormous stones. Sometimes you lose people, either to the harsh elements or to the tremendous weight of the stones themselves. You bury them beneath the hot sand, and you swear to finish the pyramid in their honor. And slowly, over months and years, you begin to feel a sense of pride, of accomplishment, of camaraderie. Finally, after 4 long years of work, the pyramid is complete. As you stand before it, awestruck and exhausted, you realize you have done something no one ever will. Forget that you were here. Imagine the celebration as the Pharaoh arrives to inspect his new tomb. He is pleased with what he sees and bestows gifts upon the mayors of the participating towns, upon the chiefs and overseers of the workers, and yes, even upon you. And then everyone goes home, back to their farms and fields, each person taking memories of a once-in-a-lifetime event and the knowledge that you helped build a pyramid. And then you get to work again. Maybe you build another pyramid, or maybe a temple, or a palace. Maybe you go back to farming or start a new career altogether. But every now and then, whenever you look at the stars, you remember that other time when you stared up at the sky from beneath the pyramid, knowing that you were part of something monumental, knowing that your hands had shaped eternity itself. And you wonder if anyone will ever know. I am the host of a documentary series exploring ancient Egypt. I am on a quest to bring the forgotten stories of ancient Egypt to a modern audience. You can learn more about ancient Egyptian history through the series available on a streaming service. Have you ever seen a painting so old it's almost whispering secrets to you? Have you ever wondered what stories lie behind the oldest pieces of art? Hello and welcome to our series where we bring art history to life. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the world's most fascinating artifacts and uncover the tales they have to tell. Let's dive right in. Welcome to the 4th part of our journey through an ancient Egyptian tomb. In the previous parts, you've probably uncovered some of the secrets of the hieroglyphs, solved riddles hidden in the artwork, and maybe even learned a few things about ancient Egyptian beliefs. Now it's time to step deeper into this fascinating world. It's time to explore the intriguing world of food and feasting in the afterlife. Are you ready to join us? Here's how you can continue your adventure. You step quietly into the tomb. The air is dry and still. On the walls are colors that have not faded in thousands of years. Blue and gold and red swirl around scenes of banquets. Tables overflow with figs, pomegranates, roasted duck, loaves of honeyed bread, and jars of deep amber beer. But no one at the table moves. The guests are painted, and the feast is eternal. In ancient Egypt, death was not the end. It was a continuation. A different kind of life awaited beyond the veil, and that life needed preparation. Tombs were not graves, but houses stocked for the journey. If you were wealthy or powerful, your tomb was a palace carved into stone, filled with everything your soul might need. And at the heart of that preparation was food. To the ancient Egyptians, food was more than sustenance. It was memory offering identity and magic. Ritual meals were performed with precision. Bread had to be shaped just right. Beer had to be brewed from specific grains. Every dish had meaning, and every recipe echoed through generations. Dried meat was salted for preservation. Jars of fruit were sealed with wax. Clay models of servants were placed nearby to cook for you in the afterlife. You are a priest performing a funerary ritual. You recite incantations to awaken the senses of the departed. May your mouth be opened. May your nostrils breathe. May your stomach be filled. You lay the offerings on a stone table. Your gestures are exact, your voice steady. You do not eat, but you feel the presence of one who might. The ceremony is not for show. It is believed to nourish the Ka, the life force of the one who has passed. In the tomb of Queen Nefertari, vibrant paintings show her enjoying a perfect afterlife. Musicians play, dancers swirl, tables groan under the weight of fruit and cakes. In the tomb of a nobleman named Mena, he is shown fishing, hunting, and feasting forever. These are not metaphors. To the Egyptians, they were instructions. If you could picture it, write it, prepare it, it would exist beyond death. Even commoners took part in this tradition. On festival days, families brought food to the tombs of ancestors. Children played in the sand, while elders placed bread and onions at the foot of grave markers. Songs were sung, stories retold. The living fed the dead and in return asked for protection, guidance, and luck. The boundary between life and death was porous, more like a doorway than a wall. The tombs smelled of incense and spices. Myrrh and cinnamon mingled with the sharp scent of wine. Platters were arranged with care, spoons carved from ivory, cloth napkins embroidered with prayers. Everything had purpose. Nothing was wasted, but there was also practicality. Climate played its part. Egypt's dry heat preserved food naturally. Tomb builders used this to their advantage, sealing offerings in airtight jars, wrapping delicacies in linen, and storing them in cool stone chambers. Even today, some of that food remains untouched, thousands of years later. Loaves of bread blackened by time. Grapes shriveled like stones, still present, still offered. You begin to understand that the Egyptians did not fear death. They planned for it like a wedding, carefully, patiently, lovingly. To eat in the afterlife was not a luxury. It was a necessity. To dine well was to live forever. The banquet continues. Painted hands reach for fruit that never spoils. Silent musicians play their eternal songs. And as you walk out of the tomb, back into the sunlight, you feel strangely full, as if part of you shared in the feast. As if those long gone had whispered back, "Thank you." What did you think? What other secrets do you want to uncover? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to keep learning with us. Who knows? You might find yourself stepping into more historical adventures than you ever imagined. So stay curious, keep exploring, and join us next time for more journeys through time. The sands of Egypt have long whispered stories through wind and stone, but what they rarely tell us in loud voices is how human those stories truly are. We often look at ancient Egypt and see gods, pyramids, golden sarcophagi, and mystery. But behind every monument is a heartbeat. Behind every hieroglyph is a hand that held a pen. And behind every myth is a person just like you, living, working, hoping. You were the farmer waking before the sun to grind grain with sore hands. You were the builder pushing sleds through the heat, your laughter echoing across the stone yard. You were the scribe whose words gave pharaohs immortality. You were the priest laying bread before a tomb and whispering prayers to the other side. You were all of them. And they were you. History often shines its light only on kings and warriors, on battles and crowns. But this story, the one we have just traveled together, is the story of daily life, of sweat and ink, of hunger and belief, of silence and song. The rhythm of the Nile matched the rhythm of breath. The sun that rose over the pyramids warmed both the royal and the commoner. The people of ancient Egypt may have lived in a different world, but they asked the same questions. Am I seen? Am I remembered? Will something of me last? And the answer, surprisingly, is yes. Their bread has turned to dust. Their bones sleep beneath desert skies. But the essence of who they were, their fears, their hopes, their humor has reached across thousands of years to meet us here now, in stories, in fragments, in the colors of a painted tomb, in a name etched beside a pyramid block. So the next time you hear about Egypt, remember more than just the gold and the gods. Remember the boy learning to write by oil lamp, the woman mixing barley by hand, the man who carved a joke into stone when no one was looking. Remember that history is not made only of great moments. It is made of quiet ones too. And maybe, just maybe, someone far in the future will say the same about us. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay kind, and as always, may the ancients guide your dreams tonight.